great having you here.
It's wonderful to come here. Every time I come to the vineyard, I always find my way to this house.
Oh, that's so nice. Just share, how did we first meet? How did we connect?
So I come often, and most of the time that I was coming it was cold. And one summer I was here, and I was walking all over the place looking for this house. And I was with my girlfriend, and I said, I think this is it. And I heard the gentleman on the porch, and one of them said something about Malcolm. I think you may have called.
Yes. She said that there are some people outside that wanted to know a little bit about the history of the house. And I said, Malcolm, you tell them. And in fact, there were several women, and for some reason I thought Malcolm might be interested in the women, or the women might be interested in Malcolm, and I like putting people together. So I said, go ahead, Malcolm. Why don't you tell him? Malcolm's good friends with our son, Taylor. And she heard the name Malcolm. And
so I said, Malcolm, oh, were you named after Malcolm X? And he was. And
yeah, he said, actually I was. And she said, I'm his daughter. And we were like, wow, that's incredible. Because outside on the plaque, it says that he would visit here. And we started talking. And then before you know it, she's in the house in natural Val way. Come on in the kitchen. And oh, by the way, let me show you upstairs where he reportedly used to play billiards. And one thing led to another, and it's been great. And when we first started talking, what I found really interesting is you shared that you were 2 years old when he was assassinated.
I was 2 years old. And I always say, it was really fascinating from my mother because she wanted to make sure, in spite of seeing him being gunned down and being 29 years old and being pregnant with twins and having 4 babies, that she wanted to make sure that she kept him alive for his daughters, so that his daughters understood that their father's love and that he never left us, but that his spirit and everything's with us. So we grew up understanding that our father loved us, and that was very important to my mother.
Wow, that's really interesting. And the number of children that you just mentioned, that was your mother's. Can you tell us how many siblings you have again, and the ages around when he was assassinated?
So my parents had 6 girls because they kept trying for a boy, and they kept believing this one is going to be a boy. And so my older sister, Attila, and then there's Kabila, and then there's me, Ilyasah, I'm right in the middle, and then there's Gamila, and then the twins, Malika and Malak. My mother was pregnant with them when she saw her husband gunned down, and so there's 6 of us. So
wow.
When I said to your son, I said that he's my dad, I think, as opposed to me being the daughter, because
that's right.
I have these very tall, opinionated women, sisters, and no one could ever think that just one person is one daughter, because then that leaves everyone else out.
That's right.
And everyone is like almost 6 feet and very opinionated. So.
That's incredible. So share with us some of I don't know if you'll recall what we discussed before, but I remember you telling me aspects of Malcolm X that many just don't know about his personality. Right. Can you share some of that?
I can. So I am an author, and I wrote a children's book, a middle school book, and 2 young adult books, and I'm in the process of finishing another one. And it was extremely important to me that my parents' work didn't get lost. Mm-hmm. That not to know who Malcolm and Betty were for the sake of celebrity, but important to understand the work.
Yes.
And for the benefit of future generations, how important it is to understand who you are, that you have an identity, that you have heritage, self-love, all of these things, extremely important. And so my books, which are all award-winning books.
Yay!
And then understanding the image that we had of Malcolm was absolutely inaccurate. That my father grew up as one of 7 children, and that his mother was the national recording secretary for the Garvey movement, which commanded millions of followers in the 1920s. She was the national recording secretary.
Wow.
And that his father was the Midwestern chapter president. And it was his father who wrote to President Coolidge at the time when Garvey was arrested for alleged mail fraud, to release Marcus Garvey, and how God will reward him for doing right in the annals of history. And so when you see who Malcolm's parents were, you understand how he became who he was, that he didn't, miraculously become this person, but the importance of having the mother and the father input in raising the child, the importance of self-love, the importance of leadership, the importance of compassion and care. And so it was extremely important that I wrote books so that this information, would be accurate. And it was just extremely important
That is, it really is.
for the benefit of future generations to realize their worth.
And so tell us a little bit about what you came to know about Malcolm that you readily share in some of your books. Some of your favorite.
The importance, his parents instilled the importance of leadership. When I looked at the gentlemen that were up here doing their presentations, for me, I think it's just so beautiful to see these men, strong in their conviction, effective, just so many great things, just wonderful. And that's who my father was. And to take his story, as I said, and pretend that he was something that he wasn't, is common. And
So let's go there. When you say that the way that he's perceived is different than who he was, put those two side by side. What was the perception and what was he?
the perception was that he was a deviant, illiterate, X this, X that, all of these X negative things, instead of looking at society, and seeing the challenges. I just recently was reading a quote of Toni Morrison, and she said, why do I have to continue to prove that that my head is shaped normally?
Yes.
Right? Why must I continue to show that I am, that I have history, that I have all of these things, and how difficult racism makes one's life? Having to continue to battle
Explain.
these injustices and not look at, the injustices for what they are, instead of getting the people who have fallen victim to some of these challenges in life, that was very similar to Malcolm, because my father was extremely compassionate, he was extremely responsible, he was very brilliant, and he could have gone and had, a wonderful career for himself, but instead he challenged, the things
The norms.
our young people are still experiencing.
Yes, and we talked about some of the work that he was involved in as it relates to young children.
Yes.
Again, I'm assuming and presuming that the audience might not know many of the things that Malcolm was involved in and helped lead. So can you share a little light on that?
Well, my father helped with the Voters' Rights Act of 1964. And a lot of people don't know that. There were just so many things that my father did. And again, he didn't do it for recognition. He did it because he had impeccable integrity, and he believed in humanity, and he believed in so many things, that we usually don't learn about.
If he were living today, what do you think he would advocate for in this society, in this moment?
Well, a lot of the challenges that we have 55 years later are the challenges that he was addressing back then. And I think that, my father was one who was strategic, and he always had a goal. And so what's important for young people to understand in our protesting and demonstrating and so forth is that we have an end goal, that we're not just out marching, but that we have a goal, and understanding the importance of our connections, the importance that I'm a reflection of you, you're a reflection of me. If I love me, I love you. If I don't love me, I'm not going to love you. I'm not going to unite with you. I'm not even going to see you as my brother, sister, or a human being. And so
That's
how
so true.
important it is to teach our children the importance of self-love.
Self-love, yes. I believe that so strongly. And I'm glad you come here. Every time you come, yeah, feel welcome. You're always welcome. Here, here.